What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing the air temperature testing of the stock intercooler versus the upgraded ECS Tuning intercooler on the 8Y Audi RS3. Now, if you missed the previous video, I'll have that link down below, which is the full installation. Obviously at this point, I have the new intercooler on the car. So in today's video, we're going to go back in time when I had the stock intercooler on the car, run some tests, see what kind of air intake temperatures we're getting over ambient air with the stock system, and then we will cut back to the clips that I just went ahead and filmed and see how much better this new intercooler is. So you've already seen the installation video, hopefully. If not, check that out. But there's the stock one. The new one is significantly larger. As you can see it in the upper grille, and then of course in the lower grille. It's probably like 4 times larger than the stock kit. So to start off the testing now with the stock intercooler, I've been driving the car from a cold start for about 15 minutes now. Engine oil temperature and the coolant temperature are all up to temp. So currently we are at 68 degree ambient temperature for the air outside, and then for the actual air intake temperature, we are at around 82 to 84. So not a crazy difference under just kind of cold start, you know, maybe 12 to 15 degrees above ambient for just kind of cruising. I haven't floored it or anything. So now I'm gonna go ahead and let the car heat soak a little bit. So basically, what is heat soaking? If you're driving the car really hard, just the engine, everything is getting hotter and hotter. That is heat soaking all the pipes and components to where the intercooler has to work a lot harder to cool down that charged air. Or another way to heat soak, if you're in bumper to bumper traffic where you're just not getting a lot of airflow through the intercooler and system to where, you know, things just get hot. Or if you're just idling for a long time, sitting, it's just gonna get hot with no airflow. So fast forward just 5 minutes sitting here idling, the air temperature has gone up to 71 degrees. So maybe just, you know, the temperature sensor is reading a little bit of the engine, but now our intake temperature is up to 111 degrees. Hopefully you can see that, but 111, so we are like 40 over ambient right now. So let's drive. And again, I haven't even driven the car hard or anything, so this could simulate just bumper to bumper traffic, no airflow. As I accelerate, even just opening the throttle body, we're letting more air go through that intercooler, and that will automatically start cooling things down. But the goal is for that intercooler to really just cool down the air to get it back to a really comfortable temperature for the engine, so where we can just breathe in nice, fresh, cool air that is similar to the ambient airflow. Down to 104, and now we'll just cruise for a little bit. I'll go for about a mile, and then we'll see how cool it's gotten by just driving it slow. All right, so it's been about a mile down the street. Air intake temperature around 70, and the intake temperature is still in the hundreds. We're at 104-ish. So, you know, we're still 35 degrees over basically. So it really hasn't cooled down that much from the heat soak at closer to 40. Now as I accelerate a little bit, get some airflow, we're down to the 90s. Got that down to 95 by just accelerating a little bit. And then it's gonna go back up a little bit as I let off the throttle. So now let's turn onto a fun road and we'll rip the car a little bit. Yeah, this thing is a rocket. Down to 91 degrees for the intake temp. Still about 68 degrees for the ambient air temperature. So I guess after this run, we'll do another heat soak test. Just let the car kind of idle, as everything is going to be a little bit hotter after a harder run. Not breaking into the 80s though, still in the 90s. All right, 89.6. All right, back to 91 as I let off. So now we'll idle a little bit more, let the car continue to heat up, and then do one drive and see how it goes. So final test now, I've let the car sit another 10 minutes and we are up into the 120 degree intake air temperature. So we are cooking now, as you can tell. Air temperature low 70s, but we're talking about 50 degree over ambient. So definitely quite a lot. We'll see how well it does as I just drive again to hopefully cool down that airflow down to 116, so it is getting a little bit better. Yeah, 109. So yeah, I'd say on average 35 degrees over. The heat soak definitely affects it, but then it will come down. But still, 35 degrees over is about what we're finding as our best case scenario. With once you start driving it, yeah, we're down to 100 under acceleration. So once the airflow is actually flowing, it is cooling things down. 102. So, all right, stock intercooler, 30 to 35 degrees over ambient once you're really getting some heat in the engine and in the entire drivetrain system. So on to testing out the new intercooler. So I've done the morning drive, about 10 minutes or so from an initial cold start. Air temp's a little bit warmer today, it's 77, and we're about 90 degrees on the intake air temperature. So kind of similar to what we were seeing on the stock kit for just the cold start. So after idling for 5 minutes, we're up to 122 degree intake air temperatures with around 90 degree air temperatures. So as you can tell, that's like 30 or so over. So kind of what we were seeing with the stock configuration. Of course, we're heat soaking, all that is going to be the same. Now, here's where we're going to start seeing the differences. Once I drive on this mile straightaway like we did in the last test, we should see this intake air temperature come down a lot quicker than the stock one was doing, and it should be able to hold a cooler temperature as well. So after driving for about a mile, we're at 77 air temperature with about 111 intake air temperature. So not really all too much different as far as that test goes, just kind of normal driving in. We haven't been driving the car hard at all. So, you know, that's 30-ish over. We will now start driving the car a little bit harder, and we will see how this kit is gonna allow the really heat-soaked air to get cooler. All right, so this is where it should really start to count, where we're getting higher speeds, so we're getting more airflow through the massive intercooler. And with the turbo working a little bit harder, it should be able to cool down a lot better through the larger volume intercooler core. And this car is fun. Good way to wake up on a morning. I will say, I think there is a smoother power delivery with the upgraded intercooler. I mentioned that in my installation video. The turbo does seem more responsive. Gosh, this is a rocket, this car, and wow, we're down to 95 degree air intake temperatures with 77 degree air temperature. That's pretty good. Obviously it goes up and down kind of depending on the throttle body, back down to, went up to 100 and then back down again. But so that is closer to 20 degree over ambient air intake temperatures as we start driving the car harder. We were getting like 30 to 35 degrees over with the stock intercooler. Now I'm getting closer to 20 degrees. So now I'm gonna pull over and shut the car off for 10 minutes. That's what I actually did in the last clip. When the car is off, all that heat that is in the engine is just heating up the pipes and there's zero airflow whatsoever. All right, so after just sitting for like 10 minutes or so, we're up to 129 degree air intake temperatures with 84 degree air temperatures. So that's pushing 45 degree over ambient. So now let's drive the car and see how efficient. Hopefully this will then cool it down really well. Once again, it was impressive to see what it could do already. So now with a lot of heat soak going on, I mean, it's climbing still as of right now. Hopefully we can go down from the 50 range down to the 20 range, which would be quite impressive. So we'll drive the car a little bit harder too, just to get a lot of airflow going. And we will see what kind of temperatures we can drop as we just get a lot of flow. Already down to 114. So we got a little ways to go now, and we'll go from there. All right, last couple accelerations. Hopefully you can see that. That's down to 98 degree with 78 air temperature. So that is again back to 20 degrees over. That is actually really impressive. Wow, 20 degrees over once we're driving it again. And then as I take my foot off the throttle body closes, so obviously it gets a little bit warmer, but still low hundreds, so that's like 25 degrees or so. But once you start accelerating with a lot of airflow going, we are getting easily down to 20 degrees over ambient. I mean, the best this was getting was 30 to 35 over with the stock. So that is a big improvement. That is sweet. Right back to 20 once you really floor it in the car. 95 degrees, so that's actually even less now. Wow, that's in the teens when you're really on it. So the harder you drive it, the more air that is getting pushed through it. I mean, you are literally getting really good intake temps. That is cool to see. So after coming back from all the testing, pretty impressive to see. Basically, with the stock kit, you were kind of getting about a 30 to 35 degree over ambient air temperature for the intake air temperatures. That was about as good as it could go. Under the initial cold start, it did pretty good, but once things started warming up, as we drove the car harder and harder and let heat soak happen, keep in mind, all the clips that you saw, it took me about an hour to film. So each test, the car was driving for a whole hour. So it wasn't just like a quick 10-minute trip here and there. So as you can tell, as the car got hotter, the stock one, 30 to 35, was about as good as it could get. And the more efficient your intercooler is, the quicker those temps are gonna come back down to a reasonable temperature. Once we installed the new one and did the same test, we were getting closer to 20 degree over ambient. So it clearly did a significantly better job with the high over ambient air temperatures. So it does a great job. That is nice to see. And it seems like under normal driving, not really much of a difference, quite honestly. But once you accelerate and really floor it and drive the car harder, the increased turbo airflow through the intercooler and the increased speed you're going, which means the outside air flowing through the grille and through the core to cool it down, that instantly cools things down really nicely. So when you're driving this car harder with this massive intercooler, it is gonna do a significantly better job. So awesome to see the improvements. I'm pretty impressed, honestly. That is nice to see. And the overall driving, I don't know if it's just in my head, but it feels smoother. There's something about the turbo boost. It feels smoother, it feels a little bit quicker. So the way ECS has designed the end caps versus however Audi has these, honestly, there's probably nothing guiding the air in this. It's probably just a straight like edge. This one has like guides all through the caps to make the airflow just smoother, and it makes a difference. But there you guys go, the temperature testing with the ECS intercooler over stock. That is a big difference. So for those of you who do track days, a lot of mountain drives, just want your car to perform at its best, very well worth it. And again, this was a complete bolt-on, did not modify anything on the car to make this fit. So that was awesome. So check out the installation down below, and then check out the link on ECS website to this product if you want to order this. I am very impressed. That is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.